And good evening and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. I am Chad Holmes. Jeff Gress will be joining us in just a little bit. He has some work that he has to finish up at his regular job, and he'll be joining us in a little while. But also tonight we have a pair of guests coming up at 6:40 this evening. We'll be talking to Marathon High School boys basketball coach Adam Jacobson. It has been quite a season so far for the Marathon Red Raiders. 25 wins, just one loss, number one ranked team in the final rankings from WisSports.net to end the regular season. They have earned a regional championship, and now they're heading off to the sectionals. And tomorrow night, taking on the Auburndale Eagles in a Division IV sectional semifinal, a game that will be heard starting with the pregame show at 6:35. Right here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. But we'll talk about that one. We'll talk about the season. We'll talk about his team and a whole bunch more with Adam Jacobson, Marathon boys basketball coach, coming up at 6:40. And then coming up just after 7 o'clock, it will be our student-athlete guest for this week from Mosinee High School, senior Landen Thomer. What a season it was for Landen Thomer. Unfortunately, for him and his Mosinee teammates, the season came to an end last Saturday in a Division II regional final when Mosinee lost to Fox Valley Lutheran, but it was still an outstanding campaign for both Mosinee and Landen Thomer. He averaged more than 18 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. We'll talk to him about the season. We'll talk to him about his future, as he'll be heading off to UW Superior to play college basketball and a whole bunch more. So Landen Thomer coming up just after 7 o'clock. So a couple of great guests. And again, Jeff Gress will be with us coming up in just a little bit here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Since Jeff is not here right now, I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about what happened in high school hockey last weekend. And, of course, I spent both Thursday and Saturday of last week at the WIAA State Hockey Tournament in Middleton at Bob Suter's Capitol Ice Arena following the Central Wisconsin Storm. We had the Storm in action both in the girls' state semifinals on Thursday and then in the state championship game on Saturday. And in the semifinals, the Storm, the number one seed in the tourney, they were number 4. They took on number 4 seeded Cap City Cougars. And Cap City Cougars were the Cinderella story for this tournament. They were a number 5 seed in their sectional bracket. They won 3 road games, including in the sectional semifinals and the sectional finals in overtime. In fact, they knocked off the number 1 seed Rock County Fury in the sectional semifinals in overtime on the road. And then they beat Metrolinx, the number 2 seed, in double overtime in the sectional final. So they had a record of only 10 wins, 17 losses, and a tie. But they were there at the state tournament taking on the Central Wisconsin Storm. And it was a game that was interesting in a tough way for both, I think, the Storm and for the Cougars. A minute 20 into the game, there was a rather significant injury of a Cougar player. She was down on the ice for quite a while. Finally, they brought paramedics in. They took her out on a stretcher to the hospital. Fortunately, she was okay, but the teams were sent back to the locker room during this time. It was basically about close to a half hour where from the point of the injury until got back on the ice to restart the game. And then right after that, on a power play, the Cougars got the first goal of the game. It was a 1-0 lead. Storm got back to even 1-1 at the end of one, and then the Storm was able to pull away late and win 4-1. But it was not an easy game. It was not a pretty game for the Central Wisconsin Storm. They had to fight through it. And I think, again, that long delay early threw everybody a little off kilter. And it was not, again, a pretty victory, but there are no style points at the state tournament. It's all about earning a W and then finding a way to the next round. In that semifinal win, Tristan Wickland had 2 goals for the Storm. Ava Rohde had a goal. Gabby Heiser, a goal and 2 assists. Maddie DePoit, defenseman senior, one of the captains, had 3 assists in the game as well. So in the end, the Storm was able to pull out a 4-1 win over the Cap City Cougars in the state semifinals. The other state semifinal on the girls' side was a great hockey game. The Bay Area Ice Bears came from behind to edge the St. Croix Valley Fusion on Thursday night by a score of 5-4. The Ice Bears used their depth. They were able to find a way in the third period. In fact, they were down by a couple of goals early in the game. They were able to make it a one-goal game going into the third period. And then in the third period, again, it was the depth that really was the key for the Bay Area Ice Bears, as it's been all season long, as they earned a spot at state. Basically, a lot to do with their depth, and they were able to find a way 5-4. They were the number 3 seed. The St. Croix Valley Fusion was the number 2 seed, basically because St. Croix Valley back Thanksgiving weekend had defeated Bay Area by 1 goal in a game where Bay Area outshot them, but in the end were not able to earn the W. And St. Croix Valley features one of the best players in the state, Kendall Sunby. And basically, in that state semifinal, Kendall Sunby tried to take her team on her shoulders and basically drag them into the state championship game. She had a hat trick, and she was just fantastic. I mean, it was the first goal of the game. And I was talking to someone during the weekend, talking about some of the strides in the girls' hockey game in high school hockey here in Wisconsin. And one of the things that I noticed is that over the years, the shots are getting harder and a lot more behind them and making it more difficult on the goalies. And in the first goal of the game from Kendall Sunby, and in fact, I was there for the Storm game, the first semifinal, and I watched the first period of the second semifinal before I had to hit the road to get back to Wausau and get back to work the next morning. But Sunby on the first goal just ripped it. It was such an impressive goal. And then I'm listening to the broadcast of the game on my way home, and she just kept doing it. She had 2 more goals. She had more opportunities. She was just fantastic for St. Croix Valley. But in the end, the depth really did work. And when you look at the numbers, it was a dominant. In Bay Area, of all the teams, and I'll include the Storm, they were the team that put the most pressure on their opponents in terms of shots on net. Going back to late in the regular season, the Bay Area Ice Bears came to Greenheck and played the Central Wisconsin Storm in the penultimate game of the regular season. That night, they outshot the Storm 44-10. Claire Kalmus was outstanding in net for Central Wisconsin, stopped the first 43 shots, and then finally, late in overtime, Bay Area earned a 1-0 win. In the state semifinals, again, 2 of the best teams in the state. In fact, seeded number 2 was St. Croix Valley. Number 3 was Bay Area. And again, I think sometimes it's interesting. Just a side note before continuing my discussion on the game and the result. Hockey still votes with the coaches in terms of seeding, including the state tournament. I think that coaches take head-to-head very, very seriously. Basically, if there's a doubt, the team that wins a head-to-head, no matter what the circumstances are, get the higher seed. And that's why number 2 seed was St. Croix Valley, number 3 was Bay Area. Because in this state semifinal, Bay Area outshot St. Croix Valley 33-10. 4 of the 10 shots ended up in the back of the net for St. Croix Valley, but it was not enough as the Bay Area won it by a score of 5-4. So that set up the state championship game on Saturday. Again, hope you are with us here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, as it was another 1-goal game. The 2 meetings in the regular season between the Central Wisconsin Storm and the Bay Area Ice Bears both went to overtime. The first game over in Ashwaubenon, over at Cornerstone, the Storm won by a score of 2-1 in overtime. And then in the second meeting, as I mentioned, over at Greenheck late in the regular season, Bay Area beat the Storm 1-0. It was a rather dominant first period, much like the second game between these squads. 11-2 shots on net in favor of Bay Area in the first period, but Claire Kalmus, again, was outstanding between the pipes for the Storm, and it was 0-0. But then early in the second period, the Ice Bears scored on the power play to take a 1-0 lead. All of a sudden, you get a little nervous. State championship game, you fell behind. It had been a struggle to score against Bay Area during the course of the 2 meetings. So you worry a little bit. But it took less than a minute for the Storm to get equal. The Storm got a power play of their own, and then early in the power play, a shot from the point was deflected. Getting a stick on it was Tristan Wickland, put it to the back of the net. Beautiful deflection. I mean, right in front, got the blade of the stick on it, went over the shoulder of the goaltender, just under the crossbar, and that evened things up 1-1 going into the third period. And then it turned into a very interesting third period, to say the least. Early on in the period, the Storm took the lead on a very fortunate play. Ava Whitmore was going into the center ice area, across the red line, even before she got into the Bay Area zone, dumped it in. The puck bounced around, and it bounced past the goaltender, Bartholomew. And it was, again, a very fortunate goal for Central Wisconsin, allowed the Storm to take a 2-1 lead. And then the Storm on the power play got another Tristan Wickland goal to make it 3-1. But then a response by Bay Area made it 3-2, and it would stay that way until late. With 2 minutes even to go in the game, Storm chased down the puck below the goal line, tried to throw it in front, trying to glove it down with one of the defensemen for the Bay Area Ice Bears, could not control it, and then bounced off the back of the leg of the goaltender in. So basically a double bank shot, a very fortunate goal for Central Wisconsin. Storm with 2 minutes to go in the third period at a 4-2 lead, but not giving up was Bay Area. They scored with 1 minute to go to make it 4-3. Then they got a power play with 38 seconds to go. Had pulled their goaltender. It was 6-on-4. They put some pressure on, and then with 5 seconds to go, a real cheap shot. It was a run at the goaltender. Claire Kalmus took a shot to the head. Boy, a really tough shot to the head. In fact, the Storm goaltender suffered a concussion on the plate. Did not know it right at the time, but saw her last night at the Storm banquet, and she was wearing sunglasses. Very unfortunate. Yeah, it was a frustration play, but it was a dangerous play, and you hated to see that. It also took away any final opportunity for Bay Area because they took the penalty, and that meant the faceoff was at the other end of the rink. Storm was able to then run out the clock and win it 4-3. Just an outstanding tournament, really entertaining tournament. And the Central Wisconsin Storm win their second state title in 3 years, the fifth title overall in terms of Central Wisconsin Storm program history, as the Storm now wins their fifth title. After the game, one of the stars of the tournament, Tristan Wickland, she scored 2 goals in the semifinal, had 2 goals in the championship round as well. And she said it was all on the line, and basically it was she played at the top of her game.
I knew that with this last weekend, I was just going to give everything I have. Like, I have nothing going on for the next week. I can rest. I can do whatever. But these past 2 games were probably my best games of the whole year. And I feel like without this whole team, like, I wouldn't be as successful as I am, and I owe it all to them.
Another star for Central Wisconsin at the tournament was their goaltender, junior Claire Kalmus. She's now won 2 state championships in her first 3 seasons as a goaltender for Central Wisconsin. Played in the semifinals 2 years ago, and then played both games this season at state. And she, again, was a huge factor, even in the semifinal. Did not see a lot of shots, but they were high-quality shots against the Cap City Cougars. And then on Saturday, the Storm were outshot by a significant margin, especially that first period when they were outshot 11-2. Claire Kalmus was outstanding in terms of keeping it 0-0 for the entirety of the first period, made some big stops as well to secure the victory. And she says that's the job. Keep it out of the net.
Nothing goes in the net. It's always nothing goes in the net. I mean, going into a game, any shot can be a goal. And I know that I have an amazing team around me that plays defense, always grinds it out for me. And when I'm the last line of defense, when it comes to me, it's just stop the puck. It's simply just that. Any shot that comes to me, it kind of just feels it's natural. And I know that all year we've been practicing, hours of hard work, going goalie coach, going everywhere. This is the moment that it'll all pay off. So I just trusted myself, and I know that I had what to do to win.
So the Central Wisconsin Storm finishes up their season 22 wins, 4 losses, and a tie, and earns that state championship. Bay Area, very, very good team. That was a very, very impressive win. It was great to see the Storm in the entire playoff run. We had both sectional games, both state games live right here on Bull Falls Radio. If you missed any of the action, you can go to our website, bullfallsradio.com/sports, and be able to relive all the action as well. So congratulations to the Central Wisconsin Storm in earning that state championship this season last weekend. Also, the state boys hockey tournament was held this past weekend. The only team that was from North Central Wisconsin was Tomahawk. Tomahawk made their first appearance at the state tournament since 1991. That is a very long drought, more than 30 years. But Tomahawk, after a very impressive win over Mosinee in the sectional finals, able to advance to state. They were the number 4 seed in Division II, and they opened up the state tournament last Thursday morning against number 1 seed and defending state champion New Richmond. New Richmond from the Big Rivers Conference. They play a lot of top Division I schools in that conference. And again, a very well-tested crew. But Tomahawk came out, took the lead, 1-0, but then just could not slow down New Richmond in that game. New Richmond able to pull away for an 8-4 win. So Tomahawk finished off their terrific season with 18 wins and 9 losses. The other Division II semifinal on Thursday saw St. Mary Springs get past River Falls in a low-scoring affair by a score of 2-1. St. Mary Springs had won the first 2 state championships in Division II when they split from 1 division to 2 divisions. And St. Mary Springs then moved on to take on New Richmond in the championship round on Saturday morning. And St. Mary Springs earned a 6-2 win to earn their 3rd Division II state championship. Very interesting because I had a chance to see Springs over at the Cornerstone during the Notre Dame Academy meltdown tournament between Christmas and New Year's. Wausau West shut them out that day. I mean, it was a real dominant performance for Wausau West. It was not a game where St. Mary Springs played all that well. I had a chance to briefly run into the St. Mary Springs coach after their semifinal game, and I said, yeah, but it looked like a completely different team than the one I saw back in late December. And he said, yeah, they really have come together. We're playing, again, their best hockey, and that's what they did. They able to win that championship game over the number 1 seed, New Richmond. I think a lot of folks thought that New Richmond, again, by playing in the Big Rivers Conference, would be able to earn back-to-back state championships. But in the end, it was St. Mary Springs 6 and New Richmond 2. That was Division II. And then in Division I at the State Boys Hockey Tournament, big upset in the first semifinal on Friday. Number 4 seeded Brookfield. Brookfield came in, again, a big underdog against number 1 seeded Chippewa Falls. And Chippewa Falls looked like they had it in hand. They had a 3-goal lead. They had a 3-goal lead twice, 4-1 and 5-2. But Brookfield East came back, tied it up using the power play. They had a number of power play opportunities, tied it up 5-5, and then were able to earn an overtime victory 6-5. So again, the number 4 beat the number 1 in the first Division I hockey state semifinal on Friday. And then in the second semifinal, number 2 seed, defending state champion Notre Dame Academy, defeated the area team Madison Edgewood, the number 3 seed, by a score of 4-1. That meant it was Brookfield and Notre Dame Academy, and Notre Dame Academy made it back-to-back state championships, 3 state championships overall, defeating Brookfield by a score of 3-1. So teams that have been traditional powers won all the state championships in hockey last weekend. As I said, the Central Wisconsin Storm now have won 5 state championships over the past 2 decades. You had St. Mary Springs. As I said, they won the first 2 Division II state championships, and now they've added a 3rd. And then Notre Dame Academy, back-to-back state championships and 3 overall. So again, tradition, the old saying, tradition doesn't graduate. Well, tradition apparently does not graduate with the Central Wisconsin Storm, St. Mary Springs, and Notre Dame Academy, the 3 state champions in boys high school hockey. And it was a good tournament. Again, seeing the action over at Bob Suter's Capitol Ice Arena. as they were able to be able to come and earn the victory. So, again, a very good state championship as the hockey season comes to an end, and we'll get back at it coming up in November. Again, coming up, we will be talking to the head boys basketball coach of the Marathon Red Raiders, Adam Jacobson, and I see he has actually walked on in. So we'll be talking to Adam Jacobson, and then we'll have as well Landen Thomer from the Mosinee Indians coming up a little bit later on in the program. We're going to take a timeout and then come back with more Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
A busy weekend features state championships in hockey, gymnastics, and team wrestling. I'm Travis Wilson, and this is a WisSports.net Minute brought to you by NFHSNetwork.com. More high school sports news after this.
Do you ever wish you could be in two places at once? With homework, carpool, practice, and everything else, sometimes you just can't make it to every game. But the NFHS Network's streaming platform makes that a little easier. For just $11.99 a month, you can watch unlimited high school sports live and on demand, at home or on the go. You can watch online or on one of our mobile or connected TV apps. Visit NFHSNetwork.com and subscribe today to never miss another game.
This is the busiest weekend of the Winter Sports Tournament Series, as not only do boys basketball teams continue on with regional action and girls hoops teams move into sectional play, but three sports are on to state championships. The WIAA Boys and Girls State Hockey Tournament begins Thursday at the Capital Ice Arena in Middleton. Boys Division II semifinals begin things Thursday, featuring New Richmond, St. Mary Springs, River Falls, and Tomahawk. Later that day, the girls will contest their semifinals, featuring co-op programs from DC Everest, River Falls, De Pere, and Sun Prairie West. Division I boys action is held on Friday, featuring Chippewa Falls, Notre Dame, Edgewood, and the Brookfield Co-op. Championship games for all divisions are held on Saturday. The team wrestling state tournament has been seeded, with state champions crowned at the venerable UW Fieldhouse in 3 divisions this weekend. Last year's champions are not only back once again, but each garnered a top seed. In Division I, Kaukauna is in search of a 4th straight crown. Luxembourg Casco is the returning D2 champ. Fenimore is trying to win a 3rd consecutive championship in Division III. The WIAA Gymnastics State Championships are scheduled for this weekend. Senior Annika Rufinach of Verona Edgewood is back as a 2-time defending state champion in the Division I all-around. This has been a WisSports.net Minute. Check out the WSN podcast this week for a full Boys Hoops playoff preview with Mark Miller.
The Marathon High School boys basketball team is just 2 wins away from a trip to the state tournament. On Thursday, the Red Raiders take on Auburndale in a Division IV sectional semifinal. Hear all the action live on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 6:35 and the opening tip at 7 p.m. Marathon basketball on Bull Falls Radio is brought to you by County Materials, Marathon Industrial Finishing, Underwood Construction, The Dirks Group, Brickners of Little Chicago, the People State Bank, Four Seasons Screen Printing, Marathon Family Dentistry, Twin Forest Products, the Marathon Athletic Club, Marathon Cheese, Marathon City Sports Center, and Marathon Parts City. Marathon versus Auburndale in a boys basketball sectional semifinal. Thursday starting at 6:35 on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. I'm Chad Holmes. Again, Jeff Grass will be joining us at any time. We'll be talking a lot of basketball for the rest of the program. Again, coming up a little bit later on in the program, our student-athlete guest for this week from Mosinee High School, Landen Thomer. Obviously disappointing that they're not playing in the sectionals coming up, but still an outstanding season, and we will talk to Landen Thomer coming up in just a little bit. Also, we'll be talking to the head boys basketball coach of the Marathon Red Raiders, Adam Jacobson, as they get set tomorrow night to take on the Auburndale Eagles in a Division IV sectional semifinal, a game that we will have for you right here on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230. We're going to delve a little bit more into the girls later with Jeff, but I'm going to talk about some of the action that occurred with our area teams. Not as much in terms of the girls making it to sectionals from the central Wisconsin, north central Wisconsin area than we are going to see with some of the boys action tomorrow night. But in Division II, in the girls basketball sectionals last week, Lakeland looking for a second straight trip to the state. They fell to Menominee by a score of 45-35. It was a rematch from last year when Menominee and Lakeland faced off in the Division II sectional championship game, a game that went right down to the wire before Lakeland was able to win by 1. But in this game, Menominee was able to do something very few have been able to do all season long, and that is to slow down Wilmette. And over the years, that's something you don't hear very often. Christina Wilmette had only 9 points in the game. In fact, she had 7 points in the first half on a bit of a run, and then the rest of the game, Menominee really cracked down and held her to 2 points the rest of the way, 9 points in the game. It was tied at 18, and it was kind of a turning point in the game. There was a foul called at the first half buzzer. Menominee had the ball. They were trying to get off a heave at the buzzer from half court, basically a very low percentage shot. But whistle blew. There was a foul called, and that allowed the Mustangs to hit 3 free throws after the buzzer, led 21-18, and then a 9-0 start to the second half pushed the lead to double digits. Lakeland would get it back to single digits, but never able to put any significant pressure on Menominee, so Menominee would then earn a 45-35 win. I mentioned earlier that Coach Melissa Wilmette was not happy to see Notre Dame Academy in their bracket. And Notre Dame Academy showed why people were not happy to see them in the bracket, because they were dominant in the sectionals. In the other sectional semifinal in D2, Notre Dame Academy beat Green Bay Southwest 93-17. And they earned their spot in the sectional championship game against Menominee Saturday. And it was another beatdown as Notre Dame Academy, with 2 of the 5 Miss Wisconsin basketball finalists, defeated Menominee 82-37 to earn their spot in the state tournament. Also, Division III, Wittenberg-Burnhamwood. We talked to their coach 2 weeks ago, talking about their playoff run. They got off to a good start, winning a regional. Then in the semifinals last Thursday, the Chargers got past Freedom, 43-41, a tight one, but Whitburn were able to earn the W. Rory Salveson, again, leading the way with 15 points. Melena Granquist had 12 for the Chargers. And again, a team that lost one of their senior starters just before the start of the playoffs, but still able to win those 3 playoff games, get a chance at a sectional final on Saturday against Xavier. And in the end, Xavier jumped out to a double-digit lead in the first half. Again, never really threatened after that. And Xavier was able to eliminate Wittenberg-Burnhamwood by a score of 55-39. And a really, really good season for Whitburn comes to an end. The Chargers had lost only 2 games all season, both of which came to Bondwell during their conference campaign. And in the end, lose 3, but just come up short of a trip to Green Bay this week. Division IV, the Phillips Loggers. We've been talking about the Merriwood North and improved play in the Merriwood North on the girls' side, with both Phillips and Athens stepping forward and challenging some of those Merriwood South teams. For so many years, it felt as though the Merriwood South always dominating in those battles, which were conference games, those crossovers conference games, both on the boys and girls sides. But in the end, Phillips ran into a buzzsaw, McDonald, who's been so very good in recent years on the girls side, and McDonald able to knock off Phillips 78-46, but still a terrific season for the Phillips Loggers. And then Division 5. And last week, of course, we had a chance to talk a lot about the Athens Blue Jays with their head coach going into that game against Pittsville, second meeting of the month of February. And in the end, Pittsville wins them both. And last week, it was Pittsville in the sectional semifinals, a game that was played in Merrill, defeated the Athens Blue Jays by a score of 45-37. And then Pittsville, looking for their first trip to state in 2 decades, came up short to Lena. Lena defeated Pittsville in the sectional final on Saturday in Division 5, 66-57. Another team from the Merriwood, this time from the Merriwood South, Assumption, trying to work their way back to the state tournament yet again. They went to Oshkosh last Thursday in the sectional semifinals, and they were able to win in the backyard of Oshkosh Lords, 54-44. to earn a spot in the sectional championship round on Saturday. But in the end, Assumption comes up just short, falling to Albany Monticello by a score of 47-45. So that means starting tomorrow night, state girls basketball tournament at the Resch Center in Green Bay. And kind of disappointing if you're a basketball fan here in central Wisconsin. Obviously, you still want to watch and see some great basketball, but central Wisconsin, through the 5 divisions, not represented. Not represented at all. You got Division 1 semifinals Friday night. Number 1 seed Arrowhead, number 4 seeded Franklin. Then number 3 seeded Neenah takes on number 2 seeded Hartford. And then the championship game on Saturday night. Division 2, number 1 seed is Pewaukee, taking on number 4 seeded West Salem. That will be on Friday afternoon, starting at 1:35. The second semifinal has Wauwatosa East, number 3 seed, taking on Notre Dame Academy. And then the championship game will be played as well on Saturday night. Division 3, Edgewood, 25-3 on the season. Number 1 seed takes on Baldwin Woodville. Xavier, who I just said defeated Wittenberg-Burnhamwood in the sectional final, takes on Kettle Moraine Lutheran in the second semifinal. And then Division 4, number 1 seed is Laconia. They take on the Prairie School, number 4 seed. And then number 3 seeded Cuba City. Boy, decade after decade, you see Cuba City at the state tournament. They take on McDonald Catholic coming up on Thursday night. And then the championship game will be played on Saturday afternoon. And then finally, the tournament will get underway tomorrow. Actually, nope, I'm sorry. The semifinals in D5 will be played on Friday morning. Number 1 seed Argyle Pecatonica taking on number 4 seeded Albany Monticello at 9:05. And the second semifinal will have number 3 seeded Clear Lake taking on number 2 seeded Lena. And that will be coming up on Friday morning. And then the championship game will be the first game of Championship Saturday on Saturday at 11:05 a.m. So again, a lot of girls basketball state tournament action coming up, but unfortunately, no teams from our area part of the tournament this year. We're going to take a quick timeout, and then we're going to come back and talk to the head boys basketball coach of Marathon High School, getting set for hopefully a very big weekend, sectionals, and looking to punch a ticket to the state tournament at the Kohl Center in Madison next week. Talk about the season, talk about his team, I got a few questions as well. I have a question that I haven't asked anybody that I was thinking about last night, and I think I'm going to give it to Coach Adam Jacobson coming up as we continue here on this Wednesday evening. The Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app.
Hungry for flavor-packed fun?
Dive into Red Robin's sizzling burgers, mouth-watering fries, and endless options.
Or maybe you're craving the perfect slice.
Then it's Donato's Pizza, your passport to pizza perfection.
Order now and treat yourself to an unforgettable taste experience.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza, 225548 Rib Mountain Drive in Wausau.
Call 715-301-0019 or log on redrobin.com.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza.
Now you can organize and create lasting memories by converting your photos and memories into digital photos you can share with family and friends. Picks and Pieces will create your custom photo books and slideshows that are perfect for family gatherings, weddings, or any special events. You'll receive your finished product on an external hard drive or cloud service of your choice for easy viewing and sharing. Contact Melissa at Picks and Pieces Photo Management and Digital Organization at 446-0762. Email mel@picksandpieces.com. The Marathon High School boys basketball team is just 2 wins away from a trip to the state tournament. On Thursday, the Red Raiders take on Auberdale in a Division IV sectional semifinal. Hear all the action live on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 6:35 and the opening tip at 7 p.m. Marathon basketball on Bull Falls Radio is brought to you by County Materials, Marathon Industrial Finishing, Underwood Construction, The Dirks Group, Brickners of Little Chicago, the People State Bank, Four Seasons Screen Printing, Marathon Family Dentistry, Twin Forest Products, the Marathon Athletic Club, Marathon Chiefs, Marathon City Sports Center, and Marathon Park City. Marathon versus Auburndale in a boys basketball sectional semifinal. Thursday starting at 6:35 on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 at 12:30. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. I'm actually starting with Coach Adam Jacobson of the Marathon Red Raiders early because, doggone it, when I'm flying solo, I ran out of things to talk about here because I didn't have Gress here just to start talking for 3 or 4 minutes and give me a break. But Coach Jeff Gress should be here very soon. But we're going to start with Coach Adam Jacobson of the Marathon Red Raiders. First of all, Coach, I know such a busy week, a big week. Thank you for coming on over and talking to us.
Thanks for having me. Good thing I showed up early.
And if you could move the microphone just a little bit more, that'd be great.
Oh, right here?
There you go. All very good. But before we talk about this week, I guess the first question I'm going to ask, do you ever get tired of Stratford and Auburndale? I swear, every year you see one of them, at least one of them 3 times, and so often both of them 3 times. And it's such a good conference, and it's such good rivalries, and they're such good basketball programs. I mean, I tell you, there's no soft touch, and you have to go through these teams every year. Do you ever get tired of them?
Well, it's always constant. Yeah, it's kind of you think like it's championship week in a lot of the smaller schools in NCAAs, right? You got to go through your regular season tournament. Now you have to go through a conference tournament.
Right.
And it recently, it's kind of been that way. With having to beat a team. Potentially a second or third time, but wonderful programs in our area, in our league, and you can just tell. I think Edgar 19 wins, Stratford 20 wins, Auburndale 22 wins. Just tremendous programs, tremendously well coached, and tremendous players.
Well, let's go back. Obviously, it's been a long season. It always is. The winter sports season is it's a marathon. You have to teams develop and change. But your team has been incredibly consistent this year. You've played 26 games now, and obviously you've won 25 of them. Went through a gauntlet of the Merriwood Conference, undefeated. And I tend to ask this question when you come in, and a lot of coaches, obviously the expectations were high when you have one of the best players in the state, a senior who's been through it so much, and a kid that's 6'10". Frankly, you just don't have a lot of those kids out there. Those expectations are high, but you also knew you had some really good players around him as well. Coming into the season, I imagine that there was a sense, I don't know if you call it pressure, but there were exceptionally high expectations, weren't there? Yeah,
there were. The way the season ended last year, and then you set goals and where you want to be, and then through the summer, we challenge ourselves a lot in the summer. We're fortunate to be able to play in the league here in the Wausau area against Valley schools, which have had tremendous seasons, and you go out and you challenge yourself at area tournaments throughout the state, and we liked what we saw, and we knew we had some potential, and the guys knew that as well. And coming into the year, and it's just, you got to take it. I know it's cliche, but it's a process, right? You say it's a marathon. And, consistency is a big word we talk about in our program in a lot of different realms, but certainly every time we want to step on the floor, we want to be consistent. And I would say hopefully those who have watched us over the course of the season, I think we've certainly gotten better. I think we even got better this week, and I was preaching to the guys, the last 3 days of practice. But consistency certainly stands out. I was talking to my wife a little bit this morning. I think I'd like to think you can count maybe on one hand the amount of halves or something like that where we've kind of not been solid. You saw us a little bit at Wittenberg-Burnwood. That would probably be one of them. Colby there in the second half. I thought there's been areas where we've had some down dips, but there's been few and far between, and we're continually climbing the ladder and getting better. And that's a credit to the kids that they're hungry and they want to keep getting better and they want to challenge themselves and they want more. And hopefully this week we can want more and hopefully earn more.
The process is an important word because no matter whether it's an NFL team that loses in the playoffs or a college team that loses in the Sweet 16, you don't get to start there. Right. Like last year, you we're at this point, and obviously it was a disappointing end to the season. But the thing is, you can't start there. You have to start all over again. You have to go right back to the beginning. You have to go through the summer. You have to go through the early practices, and then go through the early part of the season, the conference. I mean, there are no shortcuts. And I think with a team that has the expectations, you're almost saying, well, we got to get to this point, but you can't take a shortcut, can you?
You can't. And I was actually thinking about that today, and this group hasn't taken the shortcuts. They've enjoyed the steps along the way, the June, the July, and then as you get into the season, and that's really what we've preached. That's what it's all about. Sometimes, the destination is the journey, right? That you have to enjoy that. Yeah, we're happy to earn it here, and yeah, we want more, but I think I've told you this before along the way, regardless of where it ends. We know where we want it to end, but regardless of where it ends, we want to look back, wow, we gave everything we had to become the best we're capable of becoming. And that's success. And I think the kids have, and that's why you want all the successes for them, because they've done that. They haven't taken shortcuts. They've enjoyed the journey. They're enjoying it with who they're with. And I think that's very, very important. And I think that gives you the best opportunity to be the best you're capable of becoming.
Have there been any surprises this year? Because when you have some kids back who have done some very successful things, we're going to talk about all these kids. But have there been any surprises within your roster this year?
Yeah, I think because Grant was hurt early, with a couple ankle injuries, and then we've had some illness and things like that. I was very surprised and pleased with how we've developed depth. True was out for a little while, and we've had guys have to start for us and play expanded roles and things like that. We've had 6 different guys lead us in scoring. Our balance. I'm really happy, and hopefully it shows here in sectional week with our mental and physical toughness, and hopefully that shows itself here tomorrow in a wonderful environment. The cohesiveness and the collective resolve of our group together has really been, how we can respond when we're hit in the mouth. I mean, those are all things that you question to yourself. You don't know. But we've been in challenging environments throughout, going down to Concordia and in the Merriwood South and going to Mosinee and put in many, many different situations that we've responded to. And you don't know. Those are all questions as you go into a season. How's the team going to develop? How are they going to play together? And, to this point, I'm very, very proud of who they've become. And, hopefully we still have some time left together.
Let's talk about a few of the guys. Let's start with Grant Warren, because, again, it's hard for him to hide because he's 6 feet 10 inches tall, and he's been there for a number of years now. You said it. I mean, it's the start of the season. It took a little while to get healthy, but, I mean, lately it looks like, and again, I saw him Saturday against Stratford, and again, he was a handful for the Tigers. Had that big monster game the last time against Auburndale. When you look at Grant as a basketball player, and you've obviously had a chance to see him for many years now, what jumps out about what has made him as successful as he's been?
Well, coming into this year, how much he's diversified his game. He was a first-team all-conference player as a sophomore, growing into his body, right? More of a back-to-the-basket guy. And then last year, kind of evolved a little bit. Maybe he'll step a little bit away, but now this year he's gotten stronger, and he loves to play face up. He can play off of the bounce, and then his ability to defend and rebound and run the floor. His game has just expanded so much from freshman year to sophomore year to junior year to senior year. And, his production is off the charts. He just maybe in some games hasn't played as many minutes this year as he had to last year, but his production, his high level play is just tremendous at the high school level. And that's what's so exciting about, where he may go from here is he's got 5 more years yet to develop. Who's he going to be as a 21, 22, 23-year-old man is really exciting for him, both on the court and off the court, because he's a tremendously high-achieving student as well, a wonderful young man. He's been a wonderful leader for us, been a great teammate, and he's hungry, he's humble, and he wants to ride this thing out as long as he can.
And he's got such a nice touch for a big guy. When we had him on earlier, I told him that it's like when you see him at the free throw line, you're so used to seeing guys like him where it feels like it's so hard to hit a free throw.
Sure.
He makes it look so easy. I mean, he's got such a nice little touch, and he makes it look easy, and obviously he's got the capability to step outside as well. As you said, that diversification, and that just has got to be a nightmare for teams trying to slow you down.
Yeah, because he's not only long, but he is athletic, and he's got a tremendous touch, as you said, and he's got a really high skill for the game. And, that's just he works hard at. Baseball, he works hard at it. Basketball, he works hard at it. In the weight room, he just really, really wants to be good in everything he does, and that's a testament to his work ethic. It doesn't just happen.
Again, we're talking to Adam Jacobson, head boys basketball coach at Marathon High School here on Bow Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Put a couple of kids together that were sitting together here back a number of months ago in Cooper Huxama and Tyler Underwood. And part of the marathon success story, I think, is the fact you got these multi-sports guys. And you throw Grant in there as well. But Cooper and Tyler, they've been in so many big moments, whether it's the fall, the winter, or the spring. Kids like that who have been through the wars, I imagine as a coach, boy, when there are tough situations, those are the kind of kids you can really lean on.
Absolutely. Multi-sport athletes. You look at Tyler, he's been first team all-conference in 3 sports, and Cooper right there behind him in high achieving. They played in a sectional final baseball game last year. We were in sectionals last year for basketball. They've won the Marywood South 3 straight years in hoops. They've been in a lot of environments over the last 3-4 years, and experience does matter, and the only way you can gain experience is to go through it. And having that much experience, playing that much in varsity athletics, they can lead us, and they know how to work hard, and that's like even this week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, they weren't happy to be here. They're here with a purpose, and that was very evident in our practices. And hopefully we go out and we play like we practice, play like we've prepared, because they've earned it.
And I know those two are going to be ready for Auburndale. That football game probably still sticks in their craw, not to mention, of course, the last year. And then you got kids like Drew Wolfel and Truthers, again, guys that have been so productive as well. I mean, as you said earlier, I mean, the thing is sometimes you can get, blinded by, Grant getting 43 against Auburndale and getting all those rebounds. But then you have all these kids that are capable. And sometimes that's not as easy done as said, because you have to be ready for the opportunities and then take advantage. You got kids that just seem to, when they get that open look or they get that lane to the basket or that moment where maybe Grant's on the bench for a few minutes and you need somebody to step up, they all seem to be very comfortable in moving in their roles. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And we kind of learned that this summer. We played in a tournament without Grant, and like, wow, these guys can score themselves. And Grant is not only the rebounding and the points, but he's a very willing and able passer, as you've seen.
Yes.
And we love to play off of each other and share the ball. And you've seen us for many years make the extra pass. And we have a lot of balance in that regard, a lot more balance, throughout. And you even have Andy Glennon coming off the bench. He's led us in scoring as well. So, and, now you talk Drew and True, as much varsity athletics as they've played, they're junior. They may be sophomores by year, but they're juniors in experience for us.
You mentioned the passing, and boy, that's a great point, because even last Saturday, there were a couple of times where your guys are on the same wavelength. That's part of the passing. It's part of knowing exactly where your teammate's going to be. It's reading the plays correctly, and then the timing being so good. I mean, as a coach, you probably can't help but have a little smile when you see those plays, because that is team basketball at its best.
It's great. Yeah, read and react, space the floor, play with some pace, share it. It's exciting stuff to play at a high level. And I thought Saturday we played at a very, very high level, and hopefully for 36 minutes tomorrow night we can play at a very high level as well.
I was talking to you before during the break about, again, part of the job where you have to learn your guys, and there's a lot of kids within a program. It's probably similar to being in the classroom for a teacher. You have to learn, you start the year off with your chart, and you have all these names on it. And as a coach, you have new kids that come into the program all the time. You have to know as they're coming through the youth system. Can you talk a little bit about that part of the job? Because I think a lot of people don't really understand it, because you have to understand their strengths, obviously, as a basketball player, because you have to say, okay, here's our varsity, here's our JV, and everything else. But also you have to know them as human beings, as young men, boys, and what buttons to push and what's happening in their lives. Could you talk a little bit about the importance of that within a successful program? Because you could be the most brilliant X and O guy in the world, but if you're not able to connect with your team, with your staff, with other teachers in the school where you may have to have a word with, how much of a successful program is the X's and O's, and how much of it is truly having that group that comes together, as a program? And I'm not talking about varsity, but great programs, they just keep rolling kids through the system, and you maximize the capabilities of these young men. How could you talk about how you look at, as a leader of a program, maybe what you've learned over the years, maybe that you do better now than when you first started?
I mean, that's a tremendously loaded question.
I know.
Yeah. Well, one, athletics are an extension of the classroom, right? As an extracurricular, I firmly believe that. Academics, obviously, extremely important in the school setting, but the athletics and the extracurricular, whatever that may be, is an extension of that classroom and what can be learned. Teamwork. You think about it from a basketball standpoint, a lot of, we talk about this at the beginning of the year, a lot of what you're trying to accomplish may be countercultural, right? It's not about it's about us. It's about we. It's about what we can collectively accomplish, which is very important. And sometimes, like you said, it's not always about the X's and the O's. Sometimes it's about the Jimmies and the Joes, right? And the relationships you can build. And that's not necessarily just something that started in June. Think about this, and Grant mentioned it when he came here. 13 years ago is when they started their journey as a kindergartner in the Little Reds program. So you're talking about relationships that have materialized both in the classroom and out of the classroom for the past 13 years. So you talk about a culmination, and this is, not just our program, Auburndale's the same. You got 13 years built into this, to try to become the best you're capable of becoming. And you see them in the, I'm fortunate enough, I'm in the teacher, I'm in the classroom. So I get to see these kids in the classroom, on the basketball floor, outside the classroom. And these are relationships that you want to cultivate and build and that carry on, and you go to their wedding, maybe when they get older, or see them around in town. And, I was telling the guys, I was in church the other day, and there's a former player family. There's a former player, it's family. There's a former player, and it's like, it makes you feel old, but it also makes you feel great how they've gone and they've expanded their lives and are wonderful, productive people of our community. And those are things that are built not only in the classroom, but on the court and learning and working with those people. It's very rewarding, and it's exciting.
And those wins may not show up when we say, Adam Jacobson, whatever the record may be.
Whatever's on the left, whatever's on the right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those wins are just as big as any of the wins that are on the score sheet.
Absolutely.
They? And we are very happy to welcome Jeff Gress in. And man, you missed a lot of time here.
Not Lombardi time.
But the thing about it, make sure you're talking to the microphone so we can hear you.
I'm trying. I do spot. I'm trying to figure this out.
I will say that I have saved all the Marywood South questions, because I haven't even asked him about the conference, because I knew you were going to come in here and ask about the conference. But have you been listening when you were driving over?
Well, no, I wanted to ask him about personnel, and I had this long philosophical one that you just took. No, yeah, I listened all the way over here. Because, I had 10 minutes trying to find a parking spot.
That's what I told you. He's probably trying to find parking.
And I got out late. Anyways, you want me to go?
Yeah, go on.
All right. So one of the things I was thinking about is how, obviously all the success you've had at Marathon with the players, the coaches that you have on your staff, the continued job you guys do as a program in the Marywood, the playoff consistency, all that stuff. How big a part has it been from your journey, not as a player and correct me if I'm wrong, as Chippewa Falls? Did you play at Viterbo a little bit too? Playing at, or maybe not a little bit, I don't know how much, but played at Viterbo.
A little bit's probably classified pretty well.
Played at Viterbo, and then obviously starting off in an outstanding program with tradition, and then carrying on and making it, the program that you're head up on, and continuing that, but also tweaking it to be what's good for everybody else under your
see why
leadership.
I was short, because
well, I'm getting to my point here. How big a deal has all those experiences along the way, from your time as a high school player, time as a college player, to learning how it works a little bit at the freshman level, to now being the head of something that you're obviously very proud of, that's done an excellent job here in the area and beyond, in the Merriwood. How big a deal is all those experiences along the way?
Everything along the journey, from the playing days to being my first year I coached basketball. I was 22 years old up in Grantsburg. I coached JV girls basketball, and we were 0-19. And then I went to 8th grade, and then I went to freshman. And then, and all along the way, all the people I've worked with and been able to learn from, and the mentors, I still talk to Coach Reiki all the time. I still talk to Coach Culhane all the time. And then a lot of the guys from there, Claude's still with us. And, Chuck Wolf was one of the stages. So, yeah, I'm very fortunate that I get to pick people's brains and throw scenarios, and they can throw stuff, and don't forget about this. But yeah, the ups and the downs, I know we've talked one time you asked me, well, what are some of the main wins you've had? And I don't remember those, but I remember the losses, because those are fertilizer, right?
Yeah.
We've changed things throughout in our program from year to year off of things that we've fallen short on. And, hopefully in an accumulation of time and age, and maybe there's a little bit of wisdom in there somewhere.
And how we talk in a time when we talk about, some teams you look at not being able to have enough guys to support a JV varsity, and other schools like, we only got, a couple, we got 7 guys that are out, or in a girls' program, wherever it is. And every time I talk with you lately, is you have as many teams as a big Division I school does. I mean, the instillment of pride and these kids wanting to be part of something, I think that's a huge deal. You don't get a certificate for that, but that's a huge deal.
Yeah, I think, and once again, it starts in our Little Reds. We get close to 80 kids in our K-5 program, right? And then we're fortunate where we have, St. Mary's and we have Mays. We have, teams at each grade level there, and then they come together and they collaborate and they play some travel ball. And then, when they get to the high school, we take pride in the development of every kid. Not every kid's going to be a varsity starter, but they sure can become the best basketball player they're capable of becoming. Yeah. Whether that's on the JV3, the JV2, the JV, the varsity, have the opportunity to become the best player you're capable of becoming. And our kids have really bought into that. They've really tried, and we've had sophomores who've been on the JV2 play meaningful minutes as a varsity player as a senior in a regional final. We've had juniors who've been on JV be all conference as a senior. So it's not a demotion, it's an opportunity. And our kids have really bought into, all right, wherever I'm at, I'm going to make the most of where I'm at. And hopefully in the long run, they become the best pay player they're capable of becoming, and we can become the best team we're capable of becoming. But yeah, we've been very fortunate to, and we're in the area where we can play teams that have 4 teams and stuff like that. We can schedule and we can find opportunities for our kids, which is very thankful.
And I think it holds true when you watch your team. I've seen you in games where you clear the bench and you got the subs in, and those kids continue to stay disciplined and they continue to do their role. And I think that just credits down from the coaches to the type of players you have to what you instill in them, because you can see it. There's not loose cannons firing away on a 3-point shot to get those points. They they'll get something within the offense, and it shows that discipline. Did you ask him about Auburndale?
Nope, had not. We were basically talked about the team and did not get to Auburndale yet. Didn't talk about the conference or Auburndale yet.
Well, let's go to the conference. I mean, I was filling up my. I mean, it's probably going to be, if you want to turn on last year's show, it's probably the same thing. But I was putting those records down on paper again, and it's just like, wow. I mean, this is your 4th place team with either 20 wins or almost 20 wins,
right.
and just the amount that happens in that Merriwood conference on a given year. What a nice brutality to have to get you ready for that playoff season and get you ready to make your run. I guess the only doubt, you always see him again. Right, you got to go through him again, but it's well earned at that point. So what your thoughts on the conference this year?
It's such a privilege, right, to be able to go night in, night out with everybody. And yeah, I mean, Edgar at 19 wins and Stratford at 20 wins, and I think Auburndale's around 22 right now. And Assumption had a nice young nucleus, and Newman certainly got better winning a playoff game towards the end of the year. And the North is really young, so you want to talk about how it continue to develop. The North's going to be up and coming here for years to come. But yeah, I mean, tremendous talent, individual players, tremendous coaches, tremendous balance, and it's just shown, year after year after year, and it makes us better, and that's all you can ask for in a regular season.
Tomorrow night it is Auburndale, and again, third meeting. You just saw them at the end of the regular season. I mean, you're going to have a challenge because that's just the way they are. I mean, and the thing about it is they learn from previous matchups. You saw that, I'm sure, last year. What is your mindset this week going into this game in terms of trying to prepare? Do you try to, again, not to give away any secrets, but do you basically say, okay, this has worked so far, or do you try to think, well, maybe Coach Weinfurter is going to be trying something a little different? I mean, the mindset when the term chess match is used too often, but I think in this case it could be apropos.
Oh yeah, I mean they're a tremendous program, tremendous players, 2 first-team All-Conference in the Cadens. Chad's as good of a coach as there is in the state. You have to be prepared for everything, and you do that throughout. It's not like, there's 3 days here to prepare for Auburndale. You're doing it throughout to, how can we beat the best teams that are in front of us, and you're always preparing for that. But I'm probably going to give 2 cliches here, but this is really true. One, it's about us. What level can we play at? How well can we defend? How well can we rebound? How well can we take care of the ball? Play, that matters. And then plus everything in the past or whatever, that's all conjecture. That's all wonderful talk, and people can, but it all comes down to 36 minutes tomorrow, right? The previous matchups we've had with them this year, in the past. I get it. I mean, we play each other a ton, right? But it comes down to 36 minutes tomorrow. It's Thursday, March 7th in Merrill. How well do we play? How well do they play? How bad do we, all those things. It comes down to when the ball is tipped at 7 o'clock, it's a basketball game, and the best team that night is going to advance. And all we can do is the best we possibly can, and hopefully it's us in the end who advances.
And I apologize if I missed part of this, because I know you're talking about personnel on the way over here, but I was also trying to find a parking spot and not hit anybody and race here. When you get to your personnel, and I was just, as you're answering that, I'm just reflecting on the different players you've had over the years. With every group being their own, having their own stake in it and everything. You think this is one of more of your balanced groups, from what you have from guard play to the big guy to youth to experience to the guys that did such a good job coming off the bench and knowing their role? You think one of more of your balanced groups over the years?
It has a little bit of everything. Yeah, I mean, I think that they really love defense. They've defended at a high level. We rebound at a high level. We have a lot of balance. We share the ball well. They play well together. They're wonderful kids. It's as high academic achieving of a group as we've ever had. But yeah, that's a wonderful question. I guess I'm not into comparison and don't really know, but in their own right, they're a tremendously high achieving team in many ways, and I'm really, really proud of them. However it shakes out, and they know that. They know how I feel about them, and it's just. And that's a big part of it too. Is we want to do everything we can to keep this thing going because we don't want it to end.
Yeah. What do you like best about your team? I mean, you there's a ton of great things that we can talk about, but just your feelings as their coach. What's the this is really awesome about us.
They're great kids. And I'm not just saying that as a cliche either. They're wonderful young men, high academics. They happen to be very, very talented basketball players collectively. They enjoy each other. They enjoy coming to practice today and any day and getting better. They are an absolute joy and privilege to be around, which makes you want them to have every possible success possible. And I in their group that they came in as kindergartners my first year. There's special in that, right? Like this is the first group I've had. Year 1 through 13, we've been together, and it's really cool, and we've developed some strong relationships.
Isn't that? And I know in talking to coaches over the years, a team could be 4-18, but if they come in and they work as hard as they can, and they're good guys or good girls, good kids, it's still wonderful.
Right.
And then you combine that with the success, it's just got to be. But again, I've seen with successful programs, but if they aren't buying in, where it's always hard, that takes away. I think a lot of people don't realize it's not about, again, winning is wonderful, isn't it? But boy, just walking into that gym and seeing people that you like being around, I imagine that is.
You're exactly. It could go both ways, right? You could be 4-18 and be the most enjoyable year you've ever had. You could be 18-4. It could be miserable, right?
Yep.
I mean, and but this group has just been a joy, and I think that's really shown in our community support. You know, I mean, these people want to watch and support them. Our gym is packed, and I know it's going to be packed tomorrow night. They just really, and we talk about that at the beginning of the year. Be people want to cheer for, and I really think this group is, and hopefully we can make the community proud.
You're right. People care, because today I got a call from somebody saying, my great uncle, the big marathon fan, wants to know if the game's on the radio tomorrow. I mean, you love hearing that. There's another call saying, is the game on the radio tomorrow? You know,
that's great. And
that is great. I mean, it shows, again, the passion that the folks in Marathon have for your team. Jeff, anything else you want to add for the coach before we wrap it up?
Just last question for tomorrow. I know you mentioned it was about 36 minutes for you guys to win or lose, I guess, feel good at the end of the night about what we tried to go out, set out and do, what we accomplished, hopefully with the W. Do you, what's something like, this is what you're going to see for our team, and it's going to be a good game, and from knowing my team so well, this is something we want to try to avoid a little bit tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have to defend the three-point shot at a high level. We have to hold them to one shot. We want to see the ball move. We want to get it side to side, get it reversed. We want to play with space. We want to share the ball. We want to be consistent. We want to seize the moment, embrace it, and have fun, enjoy it. We talked about this on Saturday. I always write an old Jack Bennett acronym on there. It's give it your best and live with it, right? I mean, we put that on the board, but I mean, you also have to understand that all you can do is give it your best. I mean, sometimes it's tough to live with it. I mean, there's times you do give it your best and you fall up short, but give it your best tomorrow night and live with it. Surrender to the outcome. Enjoy the opportunity. I mean, there's no pressure in it. It's a reward. Yeah. You get to go to a packed gym tomorrow night with people cheering you on. Enjoy that. Have fun. Don't worry about how it's going to end. Embrace and live in the moment, and hopefully we can win the moment tomorrow night.
Head coach Adam Jacobson of the Marathon Red Raiders. Look forward to seeing you and your team tomorrow night. Best of luck against the Eagles. And again, really appreciate you coming on by here tonight.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Thanks for the coverage.
Absolutely. Head coach Adam Jacobson of the Marathon Red Raiders. We're going to take a timeout, then come back with our student-athlete guest for this week from Mosinee High School, Landen Thomer. He's coming up here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
What's your idea of winter fun? If it's hitting the trails after a fresh snowfall and you're thinking new snowmobile, it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union, the leader in financing fun. If you're thinking new four-wheel drive vehicle to get you to the downhill slopes or the cross-country trails, it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union, the leader in financing fun. Quick, easy loan applications, friendly lenders, and great rates make CCU the lending leader in financing fun. If your idea of winter fun isn't in the snow, maybe hitting the highway in a new motorhome is the way to go. Just give CCU a call. Financing for motorhomes and winter getaways. When you think fun, think Clover Belt Credit Union. What are you waiting for? Life's too short and winter's too long. Call CCU for your great rate financing. Dial 715-842-5693 or apply online or from your smartphone. That's Clover Belt Credit Union. Local lenders lending local money, keeping our community strong.
The Marathon High School boys basketball team is just 2 wins away from a trip to the state tournament. On Thursday, the Red Raiders take on Auberdale in a Division IV sectional semifinal. Hear all the action live on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 6:35 and the opening tip at 7 p.m. Marathon basketball on Bull Falls Radio is brought to you by County Materials, Marathon Industrial Finishing, Underwood Construction, The Dirks Group, Brickners of Little Chicago, The People State Bank, Four Seasons Screen Printing, Marathon Family Dentistry, Twin Forest Products, the Marathon Athletic Club, Marathon Chiefs, Marathon City Sports Center, and Marathon Park City. Marathon versus Auberdale in a boys basketball sectional semifinal. Thursday starting at 6:35 on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 at 12:30.
WXCO 1230 AM, W255DN Wausau, streaming at bullfallsradio.com.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. Thanks again to Marathon head boys basketball coach Adam Jacobson for joining us as we talked about Marathon 25-1 on the season. The one loss was handed to Marathon by Mosinee, and our student-athlete guest for this week from Mosinee High School is Landen Thomer. And Landen, first of all, thank you for coming on over.
Yeah, it was 2 days ago, 3 days ago maybe, I got the text, and I was like, it was something I wanted to do. It was experience I wanted to feel what it was like to be on the radio.
Well, that's terrific, because I know it's not easy, because like I tell Jeff all the time, it's always better when someone's coming after a win rather than a loss, and especially the loss that ends your season. So I appreciate that. Let's talk generally about the season for Mosinee, because there was a lot of high points in your conference and overall during your season. What was the feeling going into the season for your guys? Because obviously Mosinee has started to really build and really been getting better and better over the last number of years. What were the expectations when the season started?
Oh, we all definitely had high expectations. It's a special feeling coming into this year because of the amount of seniors that we have. We've all really been playing since middle school years and on. And then sophomore year, adding Keegan was huge. He was a great point guard for us. We really thought this playoff run would be huge for the seniors, all the experience that we have. It was really exciting for us.
Mm. When you talk about all those guys that you've been around so long, I guess looking back on it, how what are you going to miss most about, hanging out with those guys, being friends with them, stuff like that?
Definitely just the group that it was. They were all great guys to hang around, and they were all great players to play with. So it was a special group to me, and I'll miss that the most.
One of the things that jumped out right from the start this season with you is how you just filled up the score sheet. I mean, you really did. This season ended up averaging somewhere around 18 points, I think 13 rebounds, 5 assists per game. What was it this year that allowed you to maybe even, take that additional jump this year? What was better about your game this year than maybe it was even just a year ago?
Oh, this summer, definitely. I improved my game with AAU, playing the top competition around here. Definitely made me learn some new moves and figure out what I needed to do to be able to play at that level with those guys. And then having Davin Stoffel last year as a senior leave, I knew how to pick up my role in that. And it was really just the experience that I had, and I knew I could do what I did this year with scoring and rebounding. Assists, I was always a pass-first kind of player. I'm unselfish. When I got in the paint, I knew I had Aiden and Garrett, who are great shooters, so whenever they were on the perimeter, I always kicked it out for three.
Let me ask you about the AAU aspect, because I think a lot of folks who may come out and see one of our area high schools in action, they see the players performing for their high schools, don't realize the off season and the action and the the competition that you face. How would you describe AAU basketball? Because I think sometimes from the outside it feels like, well, it's about more individual than team. Is that fair? Is that unfair? Is it about just improving your game? Is there a team aspect? Because it's obviously different than performing for your high school. Could you talk about what AAU is to you in terms of what you're looking to accomplish during those seasons?
To me, it was really to build my game. I think there's, depending on who you play for, really, there's some team involved, but a lot of the teams, that is true, that is individual, just wanting to build off yourself. With my team, we were really put together, and no one really wanted to play for themselves, so it was different than a lot. In the competition that you play, really, no matter what or where you go or where you play, there's always going to be good players, so it's easier to build your game and improve on every skill.
And jumping back to your the conference season, you guys, conference championship again, 20-plus wins, 10 wins in the conference, so again, another outstanding season. For yourselves in your group of seniors a little bit, what have you guys kind of think you've instilled as you maybe left as a little bit of a legacy there at Mosinee High School? Because you've been part of a lot of success in these conference championships, winning last year. I think went to the sectionals, right? So all that stuff. So what do you think this group has left as maybe a little bit of tradition and legacy behind due to all the success you guys have had?
Well, that's one big thing for us. Actually, a phrase that we always use is we wanted to leave a legacy for the little kids coming up. It's definitely been huge to be a part of all the wins that we've had since my sophomore year. We've really regional champs once, conference champs all 3 years. It was huge. So leaving a legacy is a big part of what we wanted to do. I think all the kids coming up, watching us play and winning the last 3 years, they know that's what we do. Like, we're a winning program, and I think that's what they want to be a part of.
In your game, going back to your improvement, what do you think is the best aspect? Because when you look at it, it's hard to kind of tell because you put up the points, you put up the rebounds. As you said, you've been able to dish it off. As you look at your game, what is the best part of your game right now? And as you look forward to going to the next level, what is the area that you're saying, okay, I still have to take some significant strides in order to compete at the level that I want to when you get to Superior?
I think playmaking is a huge one for me. I'm never a shoot first. I always like finding my teammates and making plays. One place I still think I struggle in is defense a little bit, being quicker. I know that's going to have to be an improvement when I go to college because they're all quick and good players. But definitely playmaking. I love making plays for my teammates.
And so I didn't get a chance to ask you off here. UW Superior is the college where you've committed and you're going to, right?
Yeah.
Just so I don't say it wrong.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why I said
Superior. Yeah, I know. I'm just double checking. I
thought I was wrong?
No.
You thought I was going to say Superior when he's going to Eau Claire?
I didn't think you were wrong.
Okay.
I'm just double checking
all
to
right,
make sure.
All right. Very good.
Never know. What if there's another college here?
I know.
So I'm checking.
I know.
Did you what drew you to that? But what did you like about it? And as another follow up, do you pay attention this season a little bit more to a lot of the teams in that conference to see what's going on with Point, Eau Claire, or do you just wait till you get there?
Well, I went on a visit earlier this summer, and it felt like the best to me. I met some of the players, and they're a great group of guys. I like how their team is really close. They do a lot of bonding and stay close with each other, and they're a winning program. This year they were 1 win away from a berth in the NCAA tournament, so that was huge. The coach, I had great connections with the coach over the summer. He's a great guy, and he believed in me first. I mean, he was the first guy to reach out to me and offer me, so that was huge.
And then do you watch the other teams? Like, now that you're committed there and you kind of, you want to do your research a little bit or see what other schools have, do you dive into that or too much other stuff going on?
I haven't really yet. I definitely will. I've looked into North Central or Bethany Lutheran, the top teams. I looked a little bit into to see, and they're all always good programs, and they always have good players. So it'll be a cool experience to play with Superior.
We're talking to Landen Thomer, our student-athlete guest this week from Mosinee High School, here on the Big High School Sports Show. We're going to get back to the basketball, but we're going to step away. And as you go to college, do you have any idea, maybe an area that you're kind of interested in studying, or is it pretty open at this point?
I've looked into marketing, so business major. It's just something that really a lot of my family has done. My grandpa's a business owner, so I guess I've learned some stuff from that.
Always have these kids that have the big numbers. They want to stay with the numbers. Yeah, keep track of all the numbers on the court, and you can keep track of all the numbers in business as well. When you want to get away from it? Obviously, you work very hard with your basketball, and as you said, even with the AAU and the high school and everything else, trying to get to the level that has allowed you now to be able to continue your basketball career at the next level. What do you like to do to get away from it all? Maybe to relax a little bit, to recharge the batteries.
I love being outside. This summer I was at the campground probably like 4 out of the 7 days of the week, a lot. So that's what I do to get away from basketball. But other than that, I love being in the gym. So there's really no time that I take off of playing.
Do you have a favorite class? And jumping back to what you're currently in, based on what maybe your major is, or one that gears you towards that right now, or is it?
Or just a class that you love?
Yeah.
Well, math has always been my favorite, so I was looking to go with something that has to do with that. So I felt like business, marketing, or anything or in that area would be a good fit for me.
What was your favorite basketball memory of Mosinee?
Definitely last year, regional champs, just because it was the group that we won it with, and not many people went into that game thinking we were going to beat Shawano. So it was a great feeling after we won.
When you look at the teams that you played over the years, obviously you have your great Northern Conference opponents. You've had some really good non-conference opponents as well. That's one thing that Coach Lindsay even talked about. You really challenge yourself in the non-conference. Has there been a favorite rival, a team that, you just really enjoy playing against, that kind of brings the juice whenever you either they come to your gym or you go to their gym?
Definitely Rhinelander or Medford. They're always the tough teams for really all of our sports at Mosinee. Rhinelander, going and playing in Rhinelander is always tough, and same with Medford. But this year, one of our conference losses was at Medford, and it's just a tough spot to play. So winning there is always a great feeling.
It is a tough place. I've been there a number of times, and it's not a heck. They have to make even the announcers climb up into this little area. It's an odd little gym, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it gets really loud when it is packed, and it makes for a fun environment, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's fun to play there always. That's one thing that we lacked a little bit this year as our home games, is we had not much for a student section, so having other teams coming in with a bigger student section was tough at home games.
So, like Chad alluded to a little bit earlier, when a lot of times, when guests come on, that they've been winning, they haven't come off a tough loss. But I guess, when I used to coach, I talk about that locker room after that loss, after your season ends. I always feel like people don't believe me because they're not in it. They're not in the thick of things. They haven't poured their emotions and their hearts out and left everything on the table to do everything they possibly can as a team and for the team and with the group of guys that they love. I guess I ask this because I want listeners to understand that that's not an easy environment to be in after you're done with that final game. So going with that a little bit, when that's over and it's done and you don't get that anymore because you're going on to graduate and that's your last game, what will you and what do you miss most about that?
It was definitely an emotional night for a lot of our teammates and coaches. We have Garrett, his dad was a coach, so that was hard for him to see his kid play his last game. Mr. Lindsay was a great coach. He coached us for the last 3 years. We were basically all the same players for the last 3 years because we were all varsity. It was just it was pretty emotional for a lot of people. I'm really just gonna miss playing with them the most because we had talent we had 6 or 7 guys that could do everything that you need to do to win. So it was just a tough one.
We mentioned. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, the great answer. I appreciate you answering that. Good job.
We mentioned when we were off the air, you got put into a very tough bracket, and it was a very competitive bracket. It's still a very competitive bracket. Looking at the game last week on Saturday against Fox Valley Lutheran, what was maybe the difference in that game? What was because obviously you guys still went in there. It was, I think, a tie game at halftime. What was the difference in that game for you? What maybe allowed Fox Valley to advance and you guys not to?
Well, we went into the game knowing it was going to be a tough one. It was only our second game for non-conference that we were away, so it's always hard sitting on a bus for an hour and a half and then going into a game an hour later. I think they just had more intensity in the second half, and we knew that if we let Sam and Adam create the whole game, that it was going to be a problem, and that's what they did. They had 28 and 18 points, and we're creating the whole game, so we knew if we couldn't take those two away, it would be a rough one, and we couldn't do it.
Jumping forward to UW Superior, and you talked about some of the guys and the coaches all being inviting and all being what you wanted, and the great part about that is you get older, you get to pick your experiences a little more and get a lot more ownership. On that roster, are there guys? Are most of the guys up from that part of the state or over more out of Minnesota, or are there guys from around this area on that team? I just don't know the roster. I guess I'm asking if anybody from the area on that team.
Right now, a lot are from Minnesota, but incoming freshmen, we have 2 from Wisconsin, actually, that were on my AAU team, too. So that's going to be a fun time. Hayden Quimby and Nathan Dupree from Kakana and Xavier committed there. But
I saw Kakana last week. They're very, very good. And obviously you guys played them earlier this year, too.
Yeah, they're a good team. They're still alive right now. I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow. Hopefully they can move on.
And you mentioned off air, and correct me if I'm wrong, that because of the commitment, you can't play AAU in the spring, right?
Yeah.
So then, do you have plans in your head of how you're gonna? Because you talked about what you want to build in your game for the next level, and what do you think you're gonna go about doing to try to get? Because you can't, you're not gonna get that game-like atmosphere from the AAU tournaments you have, where you get to progressing your game against other talented players at practice and through those games. Any plans in mind that you've been spinning the wheels on to try to find that competitive fit for springtime?
I think really the big thing right now is just going back and watching film and seeing the areas that I struggled on, and then going into the gym and training on improving those areas.
And finally, on this, actually the question works perfectly because now you've crossed the finish line of your high school career. We always ask our student athlete guests, based on what you've learned, and you've been through it all, because now you've finished your basketball journey. For a young player coming into Mosinee, maybe a freshman or a sophomore just starting their varsity basketball journey, what piece of advice would you give? What have you learned over these years that you could tell a young man that is just starting his journey, that based on your experience?
The biggest thing to me is just being a good teammate. Everyone likes when you're cheering them up after a mistake or pushing them to work harder. Definitely working hard is another one. Staying in the gym and practicing, getting to where you want to be isn't going to just come, especially on the varsity level. You got to work to be on the starting lineup. I would just say going into every day, being the best teammate you can be is a big help, and supporting the team is a big help.
Anything else, Jeff?
No, just congratulations both individually and as a team on the success over your career, the success just this season, all that stuff. It's been fun to watch, and it's neat to hear about all the experiences you share and the way you painted the picture for what Mosinee basketball was to you. So appreciate that.
And best of luck as a Yellow Jacket.
Thank you.
Landen Thomer, Mosinee High School senior, heading to UW Superior to continue his basketball and academic careers starting next fall. We're going to take a quick time out and then come back. Big High School Sports Show, Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
If you're looking for your next ride, check out Mankey GMC in Schofield. Formerly Fred Miller Automotive, Mankey GMC serves Schofield, Wausau, Marshfield, and Stevens Point with a huge selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. Explore a range of top-notch SUVs like Acadia, Terrain, and Yukon, or choose from the rugged Sierra truck lineup, or even a certified pre-owned vehicle. No matter your dream vehicle awaits at Mankey GMC, 448 Grand Avenue in Schofield, and online at MankeyAuto.com. Mankey GMC in Schofield, where your journey begins.
For more than 60 years, Sun Printing has been Central Wisconsin's commercial printer of choice due to their commitment to quality, creative solutions, and dedicated service. Sun Printing's team offers you a wide spectrum of services, whether you need vehicle graphics, offset, digital, large format, graphic design, or mailing. They print everything under the sun. No project is too big or too small, so give Sun Printing a call at 845-4911 or visit them online at sunprinting.com.
Winter sports are here. Align your young athletes and yourself with health by scheduling an appointment with Dr. Sarah at Shine Chiropractic in Rib Mountain. Stay in the game with our comprehensive 3-point neurological exam, safe for the entire family. Don't let the daily grind keep you and your student athletes on the sidelines this year. Call Dr. Sarah at 715-298-5104. That's 715-298-5104 in Rib Mountain today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Wisconsin. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Big High School Sports Show on Bow Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bowfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. With Jeff Grass, I'm Chad Holmes. Thanks to Landen Thomer for joining us here tonight. And again, it's great that he was able to come in. It's disappointing, when you end that, as you said. I mean, people don't realize if they're not in that room, especially when you're hoping to continue into the sectionals, where, the disappointment. But great for him to come here and talk to us about his team, his season, his future, and again, terrific job.
Yeah, I give him a lot of credit because I just remember watching players as that season ends, and even myself when I was a player, you don't want much to do about anything with basketball. Then you wanted to just give yourself a little distance. So for him to come in and share his experience and share what he thought on the season is excellent job.
I talked a bit about the results last week in the sectionals for girls basketball, and I think some of the highlights that I was discussing was Lakeland falling to Menominee. That was a rematch of the sectional final from a year ago that Lakeland won by a point to earn a state bid. And Christina Ouimet held to 9 points. I have to give a lot of credit to Menominee for that win. And then in that same bracket, and we touched on the fact that I'd heard from Coach Ouimet that Notre Dame being in that bracket was going to be a big headache, and it certainly was. I mean, they won their sectional games 93-17 and 82-37. Amazing scores for sectionals. These teams make sectionals; they're pretty good.
Yep, and tight scores.
Exactly. But number one, Lakeland, 35 points. Real quickly, there was a turning point in that game. It was 18-18, and at half court, Menominee tried to fire a three-pointer, and they got a call. And I imagine as a coach, it's just you pull your hair out, number one. Number two, you think, man, ref, it's just, you see, sometimes you'll see contact, and they're not going to make that shot anyways. Made it 21-18, and then 9 points in a row to start the second half, and that was really the basketball game.
Yeah, you hate to see a momentum shift like that where it comes off such an ill-advised kind of chuck of a shot where who knows where it could end up. And then without seeing the contact, the first even with as a coach on the side, without seeing the contact, I guess it was what I'm saying from my opinion of not being able to judge it. The coach on the sideline, first thing you're going to try to do is bail your player out a little bit, even though it might not change a little bit. And if it's obviously legit, you're talking about it going into halftime that you got to play smarter because that's a huge swing on those ones where you just don't want to be touched. Sometimes you have to contest it, but it depends. At that point in the game, tied at halftime, if it's a good 35, 40-foot chuck, just let them have it.
Wittenberg-Burnhamwood, they had a fantastic season. They earned a tight win over Freedom in the sectional semis. Salveson 15, Grandquist 12, and then Xavier took a double-digit lead in the first half. They basically maintained it and ended Whitburn's season 55-39 on Saturday. 3 losses all season for Whitburn, and again, those are tough when you get that close. I think that the toughest loss would be a sectional final. Because even if you lose at state, you got there. You got the whole experience of state. And to get to a sectional final, I always felt like that was the biggest pressure game.
Yeah, it wasn't part of a lot, but the couple the one with you did the game at
NEW Lutheran.
We lost to Green Bay New Lutheran at Pulaski.
In a very tight game.
Yep, and I just remember
being that close.
Yeah. You look at the guys in the locker room and your coaching staff, and again, all that heart and emotion. to just pour it out from the season and just say, hey, it was 4, whatever the point total. I know ours. I mean, I still can tell you it was 4 points.
Yes,
so there's how you can tell that those things sting, and they go back and in those, and like you said, you were talking about Green Bay Notre Dame blowing people out. I wrote that down. It was 175-54 in the sectional disparity of the scores of the two teams they beat in sectionals. But anyways, that getting that tight, those are usually close games. Usually play pretty well. You've had a taste of it because if you get the 36 minutes, like Coach Jacobson said, and it's yours, and then the ball of fun just becomes huge. Right. You're wined and dined at state a little bit. You get that feeling to say that our team made it, win or lose. You get to go out on the big floor. You get the extra pictures that they take of you. All this stuff where people are escorting you around, making
go
sure
to the media room and big shots.
It's a big deal. It's really hard. Now, on the flip side, taking nothing away from Wittenberg-Burnhamore, Coach came on and talked about some of the injuries they had, and they had some big wins. That 25 wins, 3 losses, 12-2 in the conference. Just an outstanding job of making it that far, but the tough side is coming up short and looking back and maybe being like, we could have done this, or we didn't do this, or we messed up here.
Division 4, Phillips had a great year, but boy, McDonald's been very good in recent years. They've become a powerhouse in D4. They beat Phillips 78-46 and ultimately made it to the state tournament. And then D5, last week we talked about the Pittsville-Athens game. And Pittsville beat them late into the regular season. They did it again, 45-37 on Thursday. And Pittsville came up short of their first trip to state in a couple of decades. They lost to Lena in the championship game, 66-57. And Assumption came up just short. They went to Oshkosh, beat Lords Thursday 54-44, but then lost to Albany Monticello 47-45.
And starting with Phillips, McDonald, like you said, they won the D5 tournament last year. Now they go into D4 and they're down there again. So divisionally, it didn't matter to them. They just went right through it, and that's a pretty significant score again at a sectional semi where you lose 78-46 with Phillips. And I saw them play once on the computer and another time live in person, and the speed with which the girls played and the shots were one of them, I think, I can't remember because they both start with E's, if it's Egebrecht or Eckert. One of them's in the 3-point contest.
Both of them are.
Both of them are in it?
Well, no, I mean, those are the right names.
But one of them was in it because they could also light it up from the outside. So, again, a tough loss. Great season, though. Won the conference, finished 20 almost 25 wins again for
Athens.
Athens, yeah.
Pittsville.
Again, tight one over against Pittsville. The way the highlights showed from what I saw, some moments that just didn't finish it off.
Kind of a similar game as they played a few weeks ago.
Yep. Had a couple
chances.
Yeah, had chances, a couple key mistakes. Shots didn't fall. Pittsville came down and capitalized on it, and obviously ended Athens' seasons. But, a good run in the playoffs for having a couple tighter losses, an 18-10 record. And, for Assumption, the tough one there because they've had so many state trips. They're 26-3, 16-0 in their conference. I don't think it doesn't take away anything, but once you get the taste of that so often, it becomes a driven expectation that
you go to a sectional final, it's a disappointment, which is very rare.
Right. Where most people are just like, hey,
wow, what a great year.
Sectional finals, great year. And I'm not saying that that's what it is because they still had a good season, but that can be the feeling when you're in that tight program that, hey, we got to get it. And you lost a tough one against Albany Monticello in the sectional final.
The girls' state basketball tournament gets underway tomorrow. No Central Wisconsin teams at all.
No.
I mean, that's disappointing.
It's tough to unless you know a couple of the players.
Right. I mean, I still want to watch because you want to see the best players in action, but and the best teams. And there's some players that I'm looking forward to seeing. Nina, they finally got there.
Yeah, we talked about.
I know,
that. What a disservice it would be.
And
they
were the lower seed twice, and they were able to get there. So yes, there's still things to watch for, and you just love to see the best. But it's always nice to have some of our area teams in this year, and frankly, it's the way it is. I mean, we talked about it. I think that in the Valley, it was not, they're just not at that level right now, the Ninas and the Hortonvilles of the world.
Yeah, they didn't play out in terms of the, their seeding was rightfully so.
Yeah,
because
it is what it is.
They got knocked out when they should have, basically, if you want to pinpoint it that way. And I think it's tough because, we all go from fans from maybe where we were alumni to maybe where we coached or where we played or whatever it is. And then outside of that, you want to see Central Wisconsin area.
Teams you're familiar with.
That you're familiar, yeah, and are from your area, and you want to see them do well. And I don't know, I wrote up a couple things on the state tournament, but I almost had to force my pen to paper because it's like, no offense, but I'm happy that these teams made it because they should be propped for that. There's some outstanding statistics, some outstanding records. There's going to be some outstanding stories to tell after these teams play each other. But for our area and what we want to see out of it, it's not represented, and then it's tough to want to lack of care. I guess it's tough to care. Whatever happens.
Well, you watch as basketball fans, and then hopefully find some stories that catch your attention, but at the same time, it's. I think one of the things that the WI has always talked about is wanting to have representation from all areas. But now, without 8 teams from D1, you're going to have big holes.
Yep.
I mean, that's just the way it is.
And I think that's obviously, I don't have any say in it. I don't know if you have any pull or more than I.
I have no pull.
But just looking at that 6-team representation, pushing it as far as it can for D1. I mean, if I was a Division I boys soccer coach, I'd really want that because I think they're underrepresented in geographical areas because of that.
We're going to take a time out and talk about the boys, talk about what happened, what's going to happen in a big sectional weekend. That's coming up in 2 minutes here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. The Marathon High School boys basketball team is just 2 wins away from a trip to the state tournament. On Thursday, the Red Raiders take on Auberdale in a Division IV sectional semifinal. Hear all the action live on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 6:35 and the opening tip at 7 p.m. Marathon basketball on Bull Falls Radio is brought to you by County Materials, Marathon Industrial Finishing, Underwood Construction, The Dirks Group, Brickners of Little Chicago, the People's State Bank, Four Seasons Screen Printing, Marathon Family Dentistry, Twin Forest Products, the Marathon Athletic Club, Marathon Cheese, Marathon City Sports Center, and Marathon Parts City. Marathon versus Auberdale in a boys basketball sectional semifinal. Thursday starting at 6:35 on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible, because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Boys, let's talk about it as what's happened and where we are. Let's start with Division I. We talked last week about the importance of getting these Wisconsin Valley Conference teams into the sectionals, and it happened. And frankly, we knew it was going to happen because DC Everest went to Hudson and won last Friday night. And we talked to Coach Drake late in the season, and he was confident that his team was playing their best basketball, and they were. They really played well coming down the stretch. They went to Hudson, won by double digits, and then went to Stevens Point and unfortunately fell to the Panthers 59-44. And then you still have Marshfield, who were impressive with a couple of double-digit wins as well. So you got Marshfield making it. You got Stevens Point making it. You got a potential of an all-Wisconsin Valley Conference sectional final. You got Marshfield and Kaukauna being played tomorrow night. Neenah and Stevens Point as well. I saw Wausau West. It was a rough night. There's really no way to sugarcoat it. Kaukauna had a 6'9" and 6'10" kids that were really good, and they were hitting shots all over the place. But I would guess generally a positive weekend last week for the WVC. Yeah, and then we'll talk Division II in a moment.
That's what I was just going to say. I was going to say staying in Division I.
Yeah, staying.
So I wouldn't make you worry. because I do goof on that sometimes. Okay, staying in Division I, I think it showcased that the Valley is what it is, and they got the right seeding out of it, and then they proved it and backed it. Because, you know, in the past, we've sometimes seen teams get seeded a little higher, and then they get beat by some of those other teams. So this was
all double digits.
Yeah, this was a nice stretch. The Marshfield getting into the sectionals with the Kimberly and the Kimberly win and the Chippewa Falls win, and then for Spash, you know, they beat Holman early on, and then getting DC Everest. I think who they beat in the regular season, which is fair. I think that's good for them at 1 and Spash is 2, right? Just checking. Yep, 1 and 2 to make sure that they continue that. And I think for Everest, it was a big deal that at the 10 seed they went over to Hudson, got the double-digit lead and win, and that was a nice finish in that game. Obviously, running into a little bit tougher team.
I think Marshfield's gonna have their hands full though with Kaukauna. That is
the size.
That is. I mean, they got.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I was going to ask you, what do you think of that matchup?
I think that if Marshfield wins, they're gonna have to earn it because I mean, Kaukauna is really, really good. And for Stevens Point, I mean, Nina, again. After what we've all seen over the last few years, you almost still have to see it, don't you? Yeah. Even with you see 1 and 2, it's like you get nervous about it. At least, you know.
Yeah, well, it's just when they come out of that Fox Valley, those teams are battle-driven, competitive, and it's not necessarily where they're finishing their conference, and they don't seem to care a lot about what the seed was. So I don't think anything's it's not a gimme. We know that for sure. And like you said, you've seen Kaukauna, so you know what Marshfield's getting their hands full into. Not that they both Marshfield and Spash can't win,
right? No.
And get that sectional final together, which would be cool. But I think up until this point, they've held some of those seeds and got a level farther than we've seen them in past.
Yeah, and it would not shock me if it's Marshfield and Stevens Point for a trip to state, and that would be terrific. I mean, that would be just fantastic for the WVC. We've been waiting for this, and we've been talking. And you're right. You've been talking about it. The coaches have been talking about it, that this has been a major step forward for the Wisconsin Valley Conference this year. So really exciting stuff tomorrow night for both Stevens Point and Marshfield. And also very exciting stuff for Wausau East. And I'll say this much. It was not easy for East last weekend. They were down by 4 against Merrill on Friday night. Merrill, nice start because they had struggled quite a bit this season in the WVC. They got the win, as we talked about last week, in their first playoff game against Ashland. Then the Blue Jays went to East and had a 4-point lead at halftime. But in the end, East was able to pull out a 60-52 win. And then on Saturday night, they had their backs against the wall. You talk about seeing your season flash before your eyes. They were down, 6 or 8 points late in the second half. They were able to rally, pull it out in overtime over Rice Lake 55-53. So that means that Wausau East will be facing River Falls tomorrow night at Eau Claire North High School. River Falls had a couple of good wins. They defeated Menominee and then New Richmond in a 2-versus-3 game. They beat New Richmond 77-50. And, of course, we talked a lot about Mosinee in the bottom half of that bracket. Mosinee had defeated Seymour 70-46 on Friday and then fell to Fox Valley Lutheran 76-61. And I think Mosinee was this close to getting to sectionals because Fox Valley Lutheran was taken to overtime by La Crosse Central and won by 2. If La Crosse Central would have pulled that out, then Mosinee would have been home in that game Saturday. And, of course, at this time of year, that would be huge.
Well, just getting to the places. And unfortunately, you sign up for some of these gyms early on. Like I know for the East game, they had this game signed up for, but you got to play on a neutral site when you get to the sectional point. So, you know, one of the
has not always been the case.
No, and I don't buy. You know, sometimes they move these locations based on what's available and what they can kind of get you to. And let me ask you this: is it fair if a team has to drive an hour and a half and the other one has to drive 40 minutes? I mean,
I know.
You know what I mean?
I know,
but I know everybody gets off the bus. But I'm just saying it's a little bit different prep work. But anyways,
they should not be home though.
No, I'm not saying home. I'm just saying when the travel disparity is a little bit different. Is that fair? Something to debate later on. But for East, you know, congrats to Coach Garrett and his team and program. They you know, it's
they found ways both nights.
That's what I'm saying. It's not easy. There's nerves built up. There's things that happen on the court that you got to play through that are causing you not to have the lead on the scoreboard and to fight through it in both games where they were both down. I watched both of them. I saw kids make plays. I saw kids when they had to. That's a big deal.
What was the difference for East in those games? What got them over the hump?
One of those some stingy defense in both times. I thought a couple of key steals at the end. Made the Nebgezik steal at the end of the second game against Rice Lake was big.
Well, the numbers show defensive improvement. We were not used to seeing East give up 52 and 53 points in a game. Those are good defensive numbers back to back.
Yeah, no, I think if you can hold teams to a certain level on that side of the ball, that's going to be a big deal. And sometimes, whether the offense is flowing or not, you just do enough to get by. But I think what I like, East played exceptionally hard. And I'm not saying they didn't all season because they did, but they played exceptionally hard in those games. You could tell how bad they wanted it. You could tell how bad they relished this journey. They're doing it in front of their home court, which you could hear the noise in the gym as they ran off. So I thought big deal, and it'll be a fun one against River Falls.
So are they gonna beat River Falls? Are you going to the game?
I have my son has practice. If you're asking me word for word, so I'm gonna turn it on. I'm gonna be able to see it right at 7 when we get done with practice. So we won't be able to go, but I think, I think they are. I think they have. We've talked about
River Falls streaming, by the way.
Yeah, I'll find it. But my point being, and I'll have one in here on the marathon game for you. So, but with River Falls, I think just looking at competitive scores on things, I think East is played better against some of the similar foes that them and River Falls had, and I think East, has that balanced lineup where they're playing good defense as a group. They have enough offensive weapons. They have your guys that are your hustle players. Just that balanced lineup and their way in the start to gel, I think, brings for some exciting things. So I think they're going to win, and I hope they pull it out.
And if they win on Thursday, they would play Saturday afternoon in Marshfield against either West Salem or Fox Valley Lutheran. Division 3, Wittenberg-Burnhamwood was really the only area team involved. They on Friday lost to Wapaka 75-57. So no other Central Wisconsin teams in Division 3. Division 4, we talked about last week the potential of that Merriwood Conference mini tournament, and it did come through. As Marathon, Stratford, Edgar, and Auburndale all won on Friday. Marathon's game against Colby was rather interesting because Marathon had a big lead, and then Colby had a 16-0 run in the second half that got them right back in it, and Marathon was able to pull away 69-55. Stratford beat Washburn on Friday, so that set up a Marathon Stratford regional final on Saturday. Edgar just got past Iola Scandinavia Friday, 64-60. Auburndale rolled past Phillips 69-42. And then in the regional finals, Marathon was great. Boy, I did that game Saturday. Boy, they played outstanding basketball. It was, as he said, 36 minutes of really good basketball against a good Stratford team, and there was never a doubt, 68-41. And Auburndale was actually down at halftime to Edgar, but then beat them 62-46.
I think that's going
to put it all together.
Yeah. Well, the difficult part in this, like we talked with Coach Jacobson, you got a bunch of 20-win teams or on the verge. Edgar had 19, so close enough. And, somebody's not going through. I mean, they've all had really good seasons. They've all battled each other in the conference. So that's the tough part about this bracket. If you had to peg it down, you got 1 and 2 from the conference there. So the numbers worked out well. It's a tale of two different teams. Marathon is just balanced in different ways because you got the true big guy down there. And
who scored 43 against Auburndale a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and they've had Auburndale's number. Now you got the flip side of that, tougher to beat 3 teams or a team 3 times.
And a rematch of a year ago.
Yep.
I mean, so much in this.
And it's just, I think it's going to come down to who has a better shooting percentage at the end of the night. I think it's going to come down to that offensive side of the ball where who's able to convert more, and that's also going to be included in taking care of the ball better. The team that does that's going to be win, and they both know what they're up against. They both know what they got to do to win, and they're built a little differently. Where Auburndale has a couple of strong guards, some streaky guys on the outside that make the difference for their team, and Marathon just has a different balance that comes at you, and haven't seen a lot of teams keep that in check other than Mosinee.
And for Marathon, I think the coach hit it on the head. If it's about them. If they play up to their capability, they're going to win the basketball game. They're a very talented team. Boy, the passing was good against Stratford. I mean, that's something that just jumps out. Such a well-coached team. If they play solid basketball, they should win. But Auburndale, they're that program that's just hard to kill. I mean, like you said, last year was the same way. Marathon went into the game as a favorite. I mean, that if Marathon played, and they did, they had a double-digit lead in the second half, and then Auburndale found a way. Again, I think Marathon would have loved to play Edgar rather than Auburndale. I just think Auburndale's they got, as the coach said, great coach in Weinfurter. They got good basketball guys. I just think they're
a good IQ. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just. Well, Auburndale's going to have, I think, a wrinkle or two that maybe they didn't show during the regular season as well. They're going to have to do something a little differently.
Well, and here's the other thought. I had a coach one time in one of the first regional final I coached and tell me, okay, just go out there, have some fun. We were joking around before the game, and he said, it's all up to these guys now. We've kind of brought what we can, and they're going to run the asylum. And I didn't think much of it. I'm like, no, you're out there coaching. You're opening the guy. But he's right. They're going to shoot the ball. They're going to pass the ball. And the key decisions that they make throughout that basketball game, whoever does that better and eliminates a lot of their mistakes is going to be the team at the end of the night that's going to win that, and all on those players.
And the other half of the bracket, the winner of that one will move on to play at DC Everest on Saturday night. Bondwell and Oconto. And, of course, Bondwell's had a great year in the CWC East. They earned a 1-point win over Valders on last Friday. So, again, a 1-8 game in that they by the skin of their teeth. And then the next night, they play the 4th seed and win 82-40. I mean, It's just amazing. Again, these are high school kids. Yeah. Sometimes they're going to come out and they're going to be great, and other nights you're going to see a 1-point game. You'll see a 42-point game. The 42-point game against a team theoretically much better. Right. I mean, it's just craziness.
When I've seen Bondwell play just one time, and they look like they have some good moving parts in terms of their guard play, in terms of some of the size. They play hard. They're a physical team, aggressive. I'm hoping they win because I'd be interested to see how they match up against Marathon or Auburndale.
And Oconto, a 6th seed. It's actually, the 2 and the 3 seeds both lost on Friday in that bracket, so turned into a lower seed matchup on Saturday. And then finally in D5, you got Almond Bancroft against Three Lakes. That bracket saw Newman lose at Pacelli last Friday, 71-55. So the championship crown has been lifted from the Newman Catholic Cardinals. Obviously different teams, but still, always nice to remind people that they won the championship a year ago, which is very, very special. And then Pacelli lost to Three Lakes in a tight one, 65-63. So Almond and Three Lakes, Reedsville and Lord's Academy. Rib Lake, number 1 seed, lost to Owen Withy by 2 points, 45-43 on Saturday. And so Owen Withy takes on Winter. So basically our area teams are by the wayside in D5.
Yeah, and going back to Newman, looking to build something off that playoff win with the new group, because that was off the win at White Lake, going on the road, getting that W over a lower seeded team on the road. I think you look something to build off of. They had Pacelli, tough team. Pacelli, This was kind of, even with the injury, was still a team that people thought could do a little bit of stuff.
One other team to mention before we run out of time is Columbus, because they are they're in the sectional semifinals. Konechny, you faced him a number of times in the playoffs.
Well, and he's got them rolling again. They're the number 1 seed. Who do they face?
They take on Royal, number 1 and number 2 tomorrow. Then the other side of the bracket, another 1 and 2, Potosi and Cashton.
Yeah, and I think Columbus is always a team. The way they're never out of games. The way they can shoot that 3-point ball and the way they move it off, and they're scrappy defensively. Joe has them like that every year he plays. So yeah, other than some loss, some upset. Owen Withy was the 4 seed, beat Rib Lake, and it kind of ended some of the D5 teams in the area.
Well, basically, I think on the boys' side, you're going to be looking at the Merriwood South teams and the Wisconsin Valley Conference teams this weekend. So.
And I'm excited to see how Marshfield Point East all do with those higher seeds. And then you got the war with Marathon and Auburndale. So all some good things going on, and hopefully our area teams keep living another day and getting those W's.
And don't forget, tomorrow night, Marathon and Auburndale live, 6:35 for the pregame, 7 o'clock for the opening tip right here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Well, we're going to be back. We'll have some state champions crowned on the girls' side, and hopefully some of our area teams still involved on the boys' side heading to state next week.
Sounds good. It'll be an awesome time.
That's Jeff Gress. I'm Chad Holmes. Thanks again to Adam Jacobson and Landen Thomer, our guests tonight. And make sure you join us again next Wednesday, 6 till 8. Big High School Sports Show here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
WXCO 1230 AM, W255DN Wausau, streaming at bullfallsradio.com.